the headlines start to twist. He's digging through the stories, finding all the things you missed. Talking Super Bowl ads, old films in modern trouble. If the world's too loud, he cuts it down to the subtle. So turn that down, 'cause you know who's talking. Ooh, if there's truth in the static, Tom Gulley, from where you're looking. Ooh, you gotta dial G for Gulley. 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 Sunrise greets him with a golden crown. Tom Gulley's ready, no time to slow down. His voice a river, smooth and deep. He's got the stories that make the city weep. Walking streets where legends grow. Everywhere he stops, they already know. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Oh yeah, yeah. Woo, yeah. Woo, yeah. Barbershop chatter, a wave and a grin. Coffee shop wisdom, let the tales begin. The baker hands him a loaf with a smile. Tom, you're the man who makes life worthwhile. A mic in his hand, the airwaves ignite. He spins a story, he turns on the light. Listeners gather from far and wide. Tom Gulley's words, a city's pride. He lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town.
Tom Gulley's got a mic in his hand. Ooh yeah, talking Bigfoot tracks in the sand. Hole punches, spiders, conspiracies tight. He's podcasting strong, deep into the night. From the man from UNCLE to the Motown scene. He's dropping gems like you never seen. Oh, you know Tom Gulley, he's the podcast king. Say what? Ladies man with a smooth, sweet swing. Bigfoot, spider, and 9/11 schemes. Tom's a man of your wildest dreams. Tom Gulley, he's got charm, got wit, and a silky flow. Oh yeah, talking mysteries only Tom would know. From R&B to the funk soul
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking? Hope you're having a good one. We got a story tonight, the Fort Worth Trio. Some call it murder, some call it missing. It's hard to say unless you have logic, and then in that case, it's really, really easy to say. Happened in 1974. We'll just put that out there. We will just put that out there. Hey, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the absolutely free things you can do. That only costs you a click. And they help us with the algorithm, the almighty, the all-powerful, the all-new algorithm. And plus we have super chats, we have memberships, and we love it when you help us out that way. Plus the fact we do have that PayPal thing. And that's where you give the most and I get the most. Can you dig it? And Google gets the least, meaning none. Absolutely none. All the information, or at least some of it's down there in the begging bar, or it's in the description of this show. So check it out, check it out, check it out. We'd love a little something for the effort, you know? A little something for the effort. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. And tonight, let me tell you about that Fort Worth Trio missing thing right after we get to some of the comments in our chat room from our exciting pre-show. Team Brittany, moderator for the gigantic LawTube show, over 100,000 subscribers. She says, hey, Tom Gulley Show. Got a situation with one of the dogs. May not make it back in time for the stream, but we'll be listening. Hit the like, everyone, and be nice. Yeah, hit that like and be nice. Leon Kennedy's here. He's the genius behind all those songs. And starting next week, I will have the link to getting those songs. If you want to download People Have Asked, I will provide a link in the description of the show. And you can get them all. Yes, you can get them all. It says I'll have to have him on one day, but he doesn't know how to call in. All you got to do, and by the way, you can be on the show. All you got to do is hit the link at the top of the chat. You might want to wait till I'm done with the topic, or you'll be waiting for a long time. But after the end of the topic, sure, I'll take it. I'm going to put you on the thing. We did that yesterday. And it worked so well. It made everyone so happy. Leon Kennedy says, I'll have to set up my mic sometime or my voice is going to echo horrendously, but not tonight. Didn't notice how late it was. It's okay. It's okay, man. It's okay, man. Gilman is here. He says, my wife loves cold cases and she's familiar with this one. She's interested in your opinion of what happened. Well, I will be giving it. Said she ruined some of it for him, or he wouldn't comment. It says, Leon Kennedy says, oh no, and then he writes this as well. Some people came into the chat room and wanted to do some nefarious posting that I don't allow here. Not permitted. If it was something funny or interesting, sure. We've got that link, which, of course, cowardice, shame, lack of intellect. They won't use that, but behind the shrouded veneer of the chat room, they're brilliant, brilliant people. Anything else? I'm looking at topics for next week. I think we are going to do the Indiana State Fair stage collapse. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. And then what else we got here? Pretty sure we're going to do the Yuba County 5 a week from today, which is some missing 5 people that nobody knows, you know. Oh, I'm pretty sure we're going to do Albert Dryden, who is a dude from over in the UK who did he take a stand against the government? All right, Julian Zeezer has joined us. Some people call him the Zeezinator. I don't call him that. Other people do. And, yeah. And that's what we got for you. That's what's happening on the show. Tonight. Why don't we just get into it? Let me tell you about the Fort Worth missing trio. Missing, murdered. It's a long story. And this story, like most unsolved crimes, specifically murders, specifically missing people, has a lot of twists and turns. It has a lot of evidence that's, and then also evidence that who knows. And so we'll get to it. This one involves three young ladies. Three young ladies. I'm going to introduce them to you now. These three young ladies are Rachel, Terlika. It could be Terlika. I'm just going to pronounce it Terlika for the rest of the show. Renee Wilson and Julianne Mosley. Okay? These are the three persons. Now, they went missing while at the Seminary South Shopping Center in Fort Worth, Texas, on December 23rd, 1974. That's just 2 days before Christmas, 1 day before Christmas Eve. All right? This case shocked Dallas-Fort Worth. Thousands of leads, dozens of searches, hundreds of people interviewed. And they're gone without a trace to this day. Now, the oldest of these three girls is on the left, and that's Rachel Terlika. Her real name is Mary Rachel Terlika, but she went by her middle name, and she is only 17 years of age at the time of this occurrence. 5'6", 108 pounds, so average height, but a little bit slight of build. Long brown hair, green eyes. She had a chipped upper front tooth and a very small scar on her chin. Now, this is interesting, and it will become significant. It will become significant. She was a married high school student at Southwest High School in Fort Worth, and she drove a 1972 Oldsmobile 98. This is what that vehicle looked like back then. So as you can see, it's a very, it's a pretty big honking car, all right? It's not compact. It's a car that all three of these people could travel in quite easily, right? And it's a kind of a new car. It's a 72 and it's only 74. That is what the girls went to the mall in on the day of their disappearance. And she'd been married to her husband, Tommy Terlika, for about 6 months, and she wore a wedding ring. The next girl, Lisa Renee Wilson, also went by her middle name. She was 14 years old. She was a ninth grader, and she was 5'2", about 110 pounds, light, wavy brown hair, as you can see in the photo. And her clothing, when she disappeared, was bluish purple hip hugger pants, white pullover shirt with sweet honesty in green letters, red and white Oxford shoes, and a promise ring. That promise ring will become very important a little later, with a single clear stone. Now, the youngest of the girls on the right is Julianne Mosley, and she was only 9 years old. So she's out with a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. Okay, 4'3", 85 pounds, shoulder length, sandy blonde hair, blue eyes. She was wearing a red shirt, dark jeans, and red tennis shoes. So, by the way, the whole reason that a girl that young was with these other two will be evident here in just a second. People saying hi. We love it when people say hi here. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet. It's been verified by independent sources. So on the morning of December 23rd, by the way, here's a photo of the Seminary Mall in Fort Worth. It's, like I said, got a different name now, but that's the way it looked back in 1974. It was just a little bit before noon, and Rachel, Renee, and Julianne set to go out Christmas shopping, as you might just a couple of days before Christmas. The youngest of the group, Julianne Mosley, asked to tag along at the last minute because she didn't want to spend the day alone. On being told she'd need permission to go, she ran home and asked her mother, Rayanne Mosley, hey, can I tag along with these older girls? And Julianne's mother would later recall, I was working for an electrical contractor, and my husband and I were separated. It was a bitter, bitter time. I remember that Julie wanted to go to Seminary South, and I said, no, you don't have any money. You just stay home. Now, Julianne's mother knew Renee, the middle of the three girls in age, but she didn't really know Rachel, okay? Julianne, though, kept whining about how she wouldn't have anybody to play with. I finally gave in, but I told her to be home by 6 o'clock. Now, the older two girls, specifically Renee, the girl in the middle, wanted to be back by 4 p.m., specifically because Renee had a Christmas party she wanted to attend with her new boyfriend who had given her that promise ring just that morning, and she wanted plenty of time to get ready. That's a key thing. When people talk about this case, it's like they never would have not been home by 4 because that was so important to Renee Wilson. It's a big, big deal. So these three girls, they first head to a surplus store in Fort Worth, and they get some items on layaway that Renee had waiting. It seems to me these two older girls are extremely mature. One of them's married, and Renee's got not only a promise ring at the age of 14, but she's also putting things on layaway. I didn't do that when I was 14, you know? And from there, they headed to Seminary South Shopping Center. Several witnesses reported seeing the girls at the mall that day. But when the girls didn't return home, especially considering that 4 o'clock deadline, the families got very worried. And those families went to Seminary South, the mall, themselves to search. They arrived around 6 o'clock, 2 hours after the girls were supposed to be home, to find that car. This isn't the car, but this is the make and model. And the car was parked in the Sears upper level parking lot. And it looked like the girls had made it back to the car because the gifts that they had purchased were found inside the car. So the things that they had gone to the mall to purchase were inside the car, yet they were missing. Big point in this case. The family themselves stayed at the mall all night waiting for the girls to return. And when they didn't, they called the police, and the case was very quickly handled to the youth division of the Fort Worth Police Department's Missing Persons Bureau. Okay? And that next day, Tommy Terlika, Rachel's husband, got a letter that appeared to have been written by Rachel, the oldest of the three girls. I have that here for you. The letter says, I know I'm going to catch it, but we had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in Sears upper parking lot. Love, Rachel. And that spelling is correct. Okay? Now, while this envelope was written on the address portion that you see on the top in pencil, the letter itself was written in ink and on a sheet of paper that was wider than the envelope. It was addressed to Thomas A. Terlika instead of the less formal Tommy, as Rachel always referred to him. She never referred to him as Thomas, and there's really no reason to believe that she would write that on the address of an envelope. Rachel was written in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope. It appeared to be initially misspelled, R-A-C-H. Basically, the E in her name was written as an L, but then it had been gone over to form the correct L. The postmark did not contain a city, only a blurred zip code that appeared to be 76083. The number 3, the last number, appeared to be backward, as though it was applied by a hand-loaded stamp or a partial 8. It is assumed that the zip code was meant to be either 76038, which comes from Eliasville, Texas, which is about 105 miles away from Fort Worth, or 76088, which comes from Weatherford, Texas, which is only 30 miles away from Fort Worth. I kind of think that it was sent from Weatherford, because Weatherford is sort of an associated city to Fort Worth, but we really don't know. In subsequent decades, handwriting experts across the nation, including from the FBI, have looked at this, and they can't tell whether the letter is a legitimate one or not, in terms of the fact whether she wrote it or where it came from. But he did receive this letter. It is clearly connected to this disappearance, whether she wrote it or not. And when you think about it, think about what this letter says. I know I'm going to catch it, but we had to get away. Get away from what? It's December 23rd. And see you in a week? Where are you going? What will you be doing? Who can say for sure, right? Now, even though this letter was received, the girls' families didn't believe it was written by Rachel, and they didn't believe the girls had run away right from the jump. Julianne Mosley, the youngest of the 3, the 9-year-old, her mother was like, I know my daughter, and I know these girls, and they're just not runaways. One of them's married. The other one just got a promise. You know, Judy Wilson, Renee's mother, said, I could have told you that night they didn't run away. Renee wanted to go to that party, and no 9-year-old on earth is going to run off 2 days before Christmas. Everybody knows that. Rachel's mother, she believed the girls had been abducted, saying, a lot of people think they left with someone they knew, but I'll always think until the day I die that the girls were taken. The families didn't give in to the runaway theory. They continued their search. They distributed flyers, missing person flyers everywhere. Eventually, tips began to come in and witnesses began to come forward. In early 1975, a few weeks to a month after this occurrence, one young man claiming to be an acquaintance of Rachel's stepped forward and said he saw the 3 girls in the record department of a store in the mall just before they disappeared. And apparently he and Rachel, the oldest girl, spoke briefly. He claimed that another person appeared to be with the girls. And as is going to happen throughout the search for these girls, a false lead comes up. Some women's clothes are found in Justin, Texas. Everybody gets excited. They don't belong to the girls. So that's when the next step of our case takes place. We do have just a couple of comments. Crappy at Life is here with us, says H2BH. H2BH to you, sir. People saying hi. Julian Zeither saying hi to Gilman. Terry Nee, of course, as usual, claiming innocence every time there's a missing person. I would too if I were you. Leon Kennedy, the living legend, says, Night Gully Heads, bedtime for me. My brother's wife's birthday is tomorrow, and I have to go out to a club. Kill me now. Bye. See you later, Leon. Thank you so much for the tunes. And again, we will have the link in the description of the show next week for you to download all these rock and R&B and soul hits from WTGS, Tom Gulley Show Radio. Let's see here. So now, the families are extremely frustrated by the police investigation and this idea that they ran away. So they decide to hire a private detective. And it's a guy named John Swaim. Swaim with an M. And this guy will turn out to be... In August of 75, 9 months after the disappearance, Swaim discovered there was a 28-year-old man who had worked for a local store where Rachel had applied for a job before her disappearance, and that guy was making a string of obscene phone calls in the area. And this man was using his position, getting these job applications to obtain information from young women who either submitted those applications or had been listed as references. Now he's got all their info, their phone number, their location, everything else. In the end, nothing came of this in the investigation, another false lead, although the man had once lived in the neighborhood of Rachel's parents, but moved away shortly before Rachel married. So did he have any interaction with her? We don't know. In April of 75, which was just 4 or 5 months after this occurrence, John Swaim went to Port Lavaca, Texas, with 100 volunteers to search under local bridges after getting a tip that the girls had been killed and taken there. But no trace of them was found. A year later, 3 skeletons were found in a field in Brazoria County by an oil drilling crew. And Swaim had these bones compared to x-rays and dental records of the girls, but it turned out the bones belonged to a teenage boy and 2 other females that weren't the girls either. In March of 76, a psychic called one of the families and told them the girls could be found near an oil well. Come on, it's Texas. Anything can be found near an oil well in Texas. But for reasons that are unclear, the search sort of focused around this little community in Texas called Rising Star, but nothing was ever found. In another huge twist, and one that I think severely hampers the odds that these 3 will ever be found, in 1979, John Swaim, the private investigator, died following a drug overdose. His death was ruled to be a self, But upon his death, he ordered that all of his files on this case be destroyed. And they were gone forever. In the spring of 1981, police investigators were called again to Brazoria County after human remains had been found in a swampy area. Didn't belong to the 3 girls. In 2001, cases reopened and assigned to a homicide detective, Tom Butcher, who believed the girls left the mall with someone they trusted. He says, we can say they were at one point seen with one individual, but we believe there were more than one person involved. And he didn't elaborate on that, so we don't know what that means. However, we do know this. All those presents were back in the car. Okay? And we don't really have any signs of a struggle. There's not a dropped purse. There's no blood evidence. There's nothing. So they had to go back to the car, and that's where the questions really start coming up. Did they go back to the car and decide they wanted to get some more stuff and leave and then abduct it? Were they in the process of putting these presents away when someone approached them? We don't know. Over the years, investigators have continued to searched through Texas and explored hundreds of back roads. The families themselves have walked creek beds, country roads, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so decades since this happened, no new developments. In fact, in 2018, 2 cars were pulled out of Benbrook Lake because they thought they had to have a connection to this case. Nope, nothing. There were other possible witnesses. A store clerk came forward about the time the girls disappeared and said a woman told her that she'd seen the girls at the mall. And this woman said that she saw 3 girls being forced into a yellow pickup truck near Buddy's grocery store, which I don't think you can see here, or can you? I thought I found Buddy's at one point, but I didn't find Buddy's. At the mall. And the truck was described as having lights on top of it, as well as the regular lights. The witness could never be located by the police, and the story was never verified. So the police dropped the ball. In 1981, 7 years after the disappearance, a man said he'd been in the parking lot that day and had seen a man forcing a girl into a van. The man in the van told him it was a family dispute and to stay out of it. So although we didn't have signs of a struggle, we do have these 2 sort of rando eyewitness tales of signs of a struggle, or, girls being forced into a vehicle. In April of 2001, Bill Hutchins, a former Fort Worth police officer and security guard at the Seminary South Sears outlet, said that he saw 3 girls with the security guard on the night they disappeared. So, what do you think about that? That is all I have to tell you about the missing Fort Worth trio. I do have a thing to show you, though, and that is this. Bingo. This is an age progression of what these girls would look like. I believe this was around 2010. So there you see what all 3 of them might look like today. Sort of a computer enhancement. Personally, I don't think we're going to find them today. I don't think there's any chance of that whatsoever. We're talking 51 years ago. There has been absolutely no trace of them. And so if we go down the list, the girls are at the mall. They're supposed to be home by 4. We know that all those presents were placed back in the car. And in my mind, that means one of 2 things. That means the girls put them in there and decided, let's not carry these presents around anymore, right? And let's go back to the mall and do other stuff without having to lug these presents around. Maybe they wanted to look for some more gifts to buy. Maybe they just wanted to go down to Hot Sam's, get a pretzel, go to Orange Julius, get a burger. Maybe they just wanted to hang out in the record store. We don't know. Absolutely don't know. But whether they were at the car and abducted, or whether they were at the car, went back into the mall and were abducted at another place, we've got no idea. No idea. Now, you have these 3 girls who the 2 older ones seem to be very, very, very mature for their age. I don't think they were abducted in the mall. I don't think there's any chance that could have happened. Because all you'd have to do in a busy mall at Christmas time is yell, scream, run, whatever, right? That's all you'd have to do. Somebody would have seen something. If there had been any disturbance at all in a mall, that's my feeling on it. I think going out into the parking structure, maybe. I think other places, sure. But who that they knew would be no threat to this 17-year-old who's married, to a girl she knew that's 14 years old, but they didn't really know the 9-year-old that well. The 9-year-old might follow suit if two other girls that were older were comfortable with somebody. In any case, nobody saw anything after a certain point in that mall. There's a few, eyewitness accounts of, hey, I saw some people being stuffed in a car. I saw a guy stuffing someone in a van. But, we really don't know. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Julian Zezer says, isn't parking on the top level of the garage kind of unusual? Christmas time may be very busy and crowded. Yeah, it could have been out of necessity. In other words, the parking structure, which I believe is 3-storied at the time, might be full. But also consider that the Sears store might have been 3 stories high. Back then, Sears was a big department store. And I know the one in Indianapolis, there were 3 stories. There were 2 sets of escalators in that store. So if you knew you were going to a specific area, maybe you'd park there and go straight to the level you knew you needed to go to. I don't know. I do not know if that's unusual or not. Then we have the letter. Then we have this letter which knows things. Obviously, it knows the address of Tommy Terlica, right? It's got his actual address. And it knows where the car is parked, right? So whether the person who abducted him, I don't know how they would move the car there after abducting them personally, unless they just taped him up and everything else in a van or something and then went and moved the car. I also don't know how you get this letter written. That letter does not look like it was written under severe duress. And clearly, it is a letter that states things that never happened. In other words, we're going to be gone for a week. Well, they're gone longer than a week. And we're going to Houston. It doesn't give why they're going to Houston. It doesn't give where they're going in Houston. It just seems kind of a cock and bull story that's meant to make people perhaps worried, but maybe to throw the scent off any sort of search. Oh, yeah, we're going down to Houston. Houston's a 4 or 5 hour drive from Fort Worth. It's not close. And how are they going to Houston if the car is going to be parked in Sears' upper lot? It doesn't make any sense at all. If you were going with someone else, wouldn't you say so in the letter? Unless, of course, that person didn't want anybody to know. I just don't see a paradigm 2 days from Christmas, having purchased all these gifts for their family, when they decide, hey, why don't we go to Houston for a week? Don't see it happening. Do not see it happening. So it's like, how did somebody get them to write that letter? How did that happen? Gunpoint? Knife point? Do you threaten to do something to the little girl unless they write? Who knows? But this one is baffling. Absolutely baffling. Whereas with the Springfield 3, and even when we covered the Burger Chef murders from Indianapolis, there were some pretty viable options. There was some pretty viable, this guy really could have done it, that guy really could have done it. Heck, in the Springfield 3, there was a guy admitting that he had done it, right? In the Burger Chef murders, there was that guy that was in the state penitentiary that knew all sorts of details, and then got kind of skittish because he was being sentenced for another crime. There's nothing, absolutely nothing. The husband had a airtight alibi. He was at work, and then he went with the families over to the mall. There's just nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I look, there's some individual instances of podcasts and things, but there's no series of podcasts. There's no ongoing, let's look into this, which is the internet is great at. As far as I know, the number of images I was able to find on this particular story was nearly zero. So I don't know if anybody's done a FOIA request for the case files or anything else. And that's something the internet's really good at, is looking at a bunch of stuff and trying to figure things out along those lines. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the absolutely free things you can do. Absolutely free to help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. We do have super chats. We do have memberships. And we do have the old PayPal, where you give the most and I get the most, and YouTube don't get nothing. So, you know, it's the way that works out. Also, we have our merch store at TomGulleyShow.com, and it's all down there in the begging bar. And eventually, the last break we took was because, you know, you just do these shows, and if they're not good enough to get a little something for the effort, I'm you know, to hit me in the head with a hammer, it's just maybe not worth doing. Let's see here. Julian Zezer says runaway is the catch-all excuse for we're out of ideas. Doesn't seem to be a thing these days. No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. I think even in 1974, that might have been an old school thing. You know, how old was the husband? I don't really have a ton of information on him. Let me see here. I thought maybe there would be a, it doesn't ever really say how old he was in the information that I have. Let me see. I might as well just search for that real quick. Boom shakalaka. He was 24 years old. 24 years old. Yes, 24 years. Yes, I tell you. Let's see here. Incidentally, the girls were seen in the mall between 11:30 and 1:30 p.m. Nobody noticed anything unusual. You know, there you go. There you go. There's been a lot of conjecture that Rachel may have been the target of that. Hard to say. Oh, come on, you. You hunk of junk. You hunk of junk. Hold on. I'll try to get some more information on this real quick. Whoops, a daisy. Boom. Shagalaka. Oh, Gilman, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. I thought for a second perhaps our super stickers in the chat room, the super chats had just been deactivated. But no. We made $3 yesterday, $2 today. Meanwhile, people I can mention, it gets a little bit. Being with the parents is the perfect alibi. It really is. It really is. Well, now, see, another source here says 21 years of age. 21 years of age. Let me see here. Okay, let's get to this. And then there was a thing that was another thing. Here's that other thing. So for years, suspicion was on good old Tommy. But he apparently passed a polygraph and totally cooperated with the investigation. Totally. So there you go. By the way, those gifts were locked inside the car. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. Girls were expected back from the mall mid-afternoon. A couple people at a certain point said he's going to be late for the Christmas party. That would have been Renee Wilson. Let's see here. Rachel and Tommy lived only a few minutes from the house Rachel grew up in. Okay, so she was still very, very close to her family, right? Let's see here. Let's just see here. So the handwriting on the letter has been pretty conclusively assumed to be different than the handwriting on the envelope. The letter is signed Rachel, but the final L has been traced back over as if she'd begun to spell her own name incorrectly. So Fort Worth police believed that Rachel had written the letter before adding, but I don't know if she was forced to write it. So, police investigators said we sent that letter to the FBI 3 times. Each time they asked for more samples of her writing. We sent stacks of things that she'd written, but everything came back inconclusive. So, yeah. Another crucial thing was the error on the postmarking machine. You know, when you, for those of you who've not sent any letters, when you used to send a letter, it would get postmarked. It would be like a purple or red postmark on that when it ran through the local post office. And it would have always the zip code that it was sent from on it. So, yeah. Neither of the places, by the way, that it could have been, depending upon that last letter, or even last 2 letters is on the way to Houston. Neither one of them. No, sir. Renee's father, Richard Wilson, did not think that the police were being forthcoming with the families. In fact, he went as far as to say that they're lying to us. You know, he was very fed up with the lack of progress that was being made on the case. And then officers told him and his wife they had a tip that the girls' bodies were at the bottom of a well in Aledo, Texas, and police were heading over to check it out. So he decided to follow the officers, but he didn't tell them that. And instead of going to Aledo, they just went to the local coffee shop and then returned to the station. And then they called the Wilsons and told them that nothing had come up about the tip at the well, like they'd gone out there and searched. So they hired psychics, which I'm not even going to repeat any of that stuff because it's such foolishness. It's the psychic thing is like, I guess if you want to go chasing down everything you can, fine, but you know, why, you know, yeah. I can tell you this. Let's see here. Rachel's brother, who was, I think, 11 years old at the time, named Rusty, he's still searching. He is still following up leads on this case to this day. And Renee Wilson's father, at least as of, let's see here, 2020, was still alive and involved in trying to find a conclusion to this particular case. The letter is extremely puzzling to everyone involved. Everyone involved. And Rusty believes that somebody knows out there what happened. If they were alive, Rachel would be 68 years old today. Renee would be 65, and Julie would be 60. So, yeah. And that's really all I have to tell you about the missing, let's say, Fort Worth trio, although I think we can all assume they're not with us. Gilman says, the odds of this not being an inside job is astronomical. I don't know. They can tell where those pre-stamped envelopes were sold. Well, they could, but these weren't pre-stamped. Wait a minute, maybe they were. Let's have a look at this. But I don't think this was pre-stamped. I think that looks to me like a regular stamp. But it's hard to tell from this facsimile. How many 24-year-olds marry a high schooler? Well, I have one account that said he was 24 and another one that said he was 21. So 21 is a 4-year difference, and that's like senior in high school, freshman in high school. Not many, but it was a different time, you know. I don't even know what to say about that. Apparently, you know, her very close family and her parents were very much involved in their lives, so they didn't really necessarily have a problem with him. And in all the discussions that I've read, there's absolutely no evidence that he was abusive or in any way a bad guy. Naturally, there's a lot of suspicion, but There's not a drop of evidence, not even a whisper of her going through rough times with him at all. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. You know, you would think, given how close the family lived to them and how close she was with their family, and the fact she was still in high school, you'd think someone would have talked to somebody about something like that. But also, he's kind of accounted for through this whole thing. And like we said, he took a polygraph and completely cooperated with police. Yes, go ahead, search my house. Yes, go ahead, search all that stuff. So it's a toughie. It's a real toughie. I got about 10 minutes left here if somebody wants to jump on the link at the top of the page. But this is some of these cases are so frustrating from the standpoint of there's just not enough there. And a case like this one, it's so old. Now, when we start talking about the good point that Julian made about being able to trace envelopes and stuff, yeah, maybe, but all that was done by hand back in 1974, and I mean all of it. All of it. So it wouldn't take much for a clerical error, or it wouldn't take much for something to not get written down, or it wouldn't, you know what I mean? It's not like it is today. Was she still in high school? People would drop out after the 10th grade back then. Yes, she was still in high school. She was actually still in high school. Going to high school at Southwest High School in Fort Worth. Incidentally, for your viewing pleasure, let's see here. Seminary South is now known as La Grande Plaza de Fort Worth. It's a Hispanic-themed shopping mall in Fort Worth. It opened at Seminary South, but then later became known as Fort Worth Town Center. Okay, so it's been there. It opened in 1962. This mall had been open for 14 years by the time these girls were there. Right? The original tenants were Sears, G.C. Murphy, which was kind of like a dime store, Stripling's department store. Other major tenants included Buddy's Supermarket, which later became Winn-Dixie, Finger Furniture, and a 7-story office tower. It's a big development. J.C. Penney was added in 1964, and Dillard's, which is pretty much J.C. Penney, it's just a department store, joined in 1977. Yes. So that's what was going on at that time. So anyway, that's what we got. That's what the thing that happened there. That's kind of what happened with the thing, with the people and the stuff. That's all I got to say about that day. You know what I mean? It's our last show of the week. Our last show of the week, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what else to say. Other than we will do a show on the Indiana State Fair stage collapse next week. Well, and by the way, I know some of the people involved with that personally. And there's one person, when I talk about that I'm not going to be very polite about. At all. The Yuba County 5 will do a week from today. A man named Albert Dryden. We're going to do a story on him. Guy that wanted to do some things on his property that the local government didn't want to allow him to do. and he kind of took matters into his own hands. He may have taken matters into his own hands, is all I'm going to say about that fella there. I'm looking for a fourth topic for next week. I do a lot of handwriting. I'll find one. I've got stuff here on this list. Why do I have Cynthia Gonzalez written down? Let's find out, shall we? Oh, that's that case that just 3 days ago, a 63-year-old woman was arrested for the 1991 capital murder of 25-year-old Cynthia Gonzalez. I could do that. We could have a really crimey stuff next week if you wanted. Let's see. Hearing about this makes you value surveillance cameras and big data. It really does. And big metadata, too. It really does. And it also kind of gets you back into the days when there was a lot of crimes you could commit that you could get away with for quite a while, if not forever, if the police didn't keep good records of them. I mean, like check fraud. You know, you could go into a bank and cash a check. There wasn't cameras in the banks. You just walked in. Here you go, right for cash. Boom, gone. Move on to the next city. You know, there's no record. There's no nothing. Right? Hey, Gilman, I'd like to thank you as being the only person who donated to today's show, unless somebody did on PayPal, for the $1.99 super sticker. Not really about the money, but I kind of have a thing. YouTube's threshold for payment is $100 a month. If I don't make $100 a month, which is $5 a show, there's really no reason for me to be doing this. You know, just from my own ego, if nothing else. If nothing else, I don't have to mention to you the people on the internet that thriving. I'm not asking to be thriving, but anyway, maybe it's just not worth it. Maybe it's just not worth it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just seems like too much of a PBS show. I don't know. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. We'll be back next week with more shows. I'll probably post those all tomorrow if you really care to see what they are. But please like and share and subscribe. You know, get your friends involved. You know, got to get some people hitting that link if they'd like to call in and chat. I enjoy chatting. Wasn't yesterday's chat nice and fun? Unblocked that guy, by the way. He's unblocked. Godna. Oh, I know that probably is. Have a good weekend. Yeah. Do you do the same? You do the same. What's the one I'm going to play? I'm going to play this one here on our outro. And I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And it's telling me that, like the Reverend Al Green, by the way, we need to do a show on Al Green. I got to get on up out of here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That means all there's left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next. Wait, hold on. I gotta reverse something. Well, actually, I wouldn't have to reverse that, would I? Well, fine, I reversed it anyway. Till next time, we'll see you next time.
dropping truth bombs. He's coming for you.